jobs that are higher paying and better quality emerge in every single platform shift, right?
Yeah.
If you think about when we went from the field to the factory to the office, now it's the office to, the ether.
Yeah.
And so in 1900, do you want to guess how many people were employed shoveling horse manure? There were 30,000 people.
30,000 people.
So once the automobile came along, guess what?
Yeah.
You didn't need 30,000, but
Yeah.
they moved on to the factory floor.
Sure.
They moved on to auto production,
Sure.
right?
Joe, thanks for sitting down with us today. Appreciate you spending some time. Excited to be working, obviously, a project with you. But I want to spend more time on how we didn't meet at the event, but we were at the UF Trends Conference that I think you were the chair of.
I did chair it this year. Yes.
Talk about that event. It was a wonderful event. Talk about that event and the role that you play in it, and what's going for the future.
Well, the Trends Conference this past year was really focused on what's around the corner. Many of us go to conferences and we hear speakers, and it tends to be an echo chamber, right? You hear a lot of the same stuff. And I was thrilled to lead a fantastic committee working with our staff at the Bergstrom Real Estate Center to bring in just a top level group of speakers. And it ranged from Ray Corderero from JP Morgan, who is in charge of global capital projects. So he's a guy that only spends $5 billion a year.
Sure, just $5 billion.
And that was one of my first questions to him. And Ray's a dear friend. We worked together at JLL, and when I was at JLL, he went over to JP Morgan, and we promoted him to client, so we took good care of him. But the fun question was, Ray, how do you spend $5 billion a year?
Didn't Richard Pryor have that movie where he was trying to spend $100,000 in 24 hours to get multiple millions? So yeah, how do you spend $5 billion? Yeah.
Well, it turns out that conversation went from where does JP Morgan view the future of office to how do they view Florida, given that we were all collectively in Florida. And what's interesting is Tampa and Orlando are both global hubs for JP Morgan, and they just added Jacksonville to that global list.
Wow.
And so as a hub, the investment dollars per year are extraordinary. Wow. And there's JP Morgan's probably investing, at least on their own corporate campus side, close to $1 billion in Florida. It's astounding. So great to see that. But it was also terrific to talk about the topic du jour, which is what's the future of work. And so we talked quite a bit about JP Morgan's new headquarters building in New York.
Amazing.
270 Park Avenue. Just got a text last night that yesterday the very first 600 people were able to occupy the new building.
Wow.
And it's you would probably geek out on this.
Oh no, I've done fly-throughs and I've seen
right?
Yes.
So the Foster and Partners. I just love how David Arena, by the way, who's the global head of real estate for JP Morgan, is probably the best global real estate leader, period, right? There's, he's so far above whoever's number two. Just a visionary and a brilliant guy, and many people have been mentored by him, including me. And I'll tell a funny story later.
Okay,
if you're game.
sure.
But the vision to reach out to Norman Foster and to engage him in building community at 270 Park was extraordinary. And you think about that entire city block, you have 48th and Park over to Madison to 49th, 2 stories of just pure glass. And it is basically a city park that they've created. And so it really resonates about what this future of work is. And frankly, there's, for us in retail, and I wrote a book on this called Workshop, we've seen the movie already. we've seen how technology has evolved rapidly. It's changed consumer behavior, and you have to explore whether the real estate, the built environment, is kept up.
Yeah.
And we've seen over 10 years that irrelevant retail and irrelevant retailers have gone away. But those that are relevant, that have created experience, that have driven a movement, at least in our retail world, have excelled. And so JP Morgan is probably, everyone wants to focus on them because Jamie Dimon says everyone's back 5 days a week.
Yeah.
The conversation's almost irrelevant if you get to go to 270 Park Avenue,
Yeah.
which is one of the finest office buildings in the world. So, all the accolades, it's fully environmentally sound and so forth.
I can't remember how many restaurants.
There's 20 some restaurant venues.
Yeah.
There's an Irish pub on the top floor. There's,
of course.
And by the way, the art collection that JP Morgan has is beyond compare.
Wow.
On the top floor, when I used to go to 383 Madison, which was the old Bear Stearns building that Jamie got for $10. It's only worth $1 billion now, probably more. Are the pistols that Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton used in their duel, right? Like you think about these types of things, it's extraordinary. So,
but I think that's how corporate America, frankly, sometimes people forget. So in Bentonville, Arkansas, there's an amazing art museum.
Right. The Waltons, they curated it,
yes. Right? And so we spent a little time yesterday with Josh from Crossmark, and we talked a little bit about how office has to have a hospitality environment. Like that's part of the reframing. It's not about a lease. It is about an experience. And if you are going to bring people back to work, you need to have something maybe a little bit different for them. It was a fantastic.
Hold on now.
Yeah, okay.
Bring them back to work. Okay. I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
That's like saying hot water heater. The water's already hot. You don't need to heat it. Everyone's been working. And that's the thing. I wrote this book called Workshop, and my thesis is that shop evolved from a noun to a verb, a place you went to spend money, physical four walls, to a thing you do or you do irrespective of place, whether it's online, in the brick and mortar, in any combination. I argue that work is justly going through that same evolution.
Okay.
Pre-pandemic, work and office were almost synonymous, weren't they? Where are you going, Nathan? I'm going to work. Well, that meant you were going to your office, which is a really nice office, by the way, and thank you for showing me around.
Yes.
And for those who get a chance, you should definitely check it out. Now, work and office are decoupled. And if you think about the age we're living in, we're going through a platform shift. One of the biggest technological platform shifts in humanity, and it's this AI platform shift that's happening now.
Significant.
And it's significant if you think about the turn of the last century. We were deep in the Industrial Revolution. Doing research for my book, I said, I wanted to tackle the idea of technology stealing our jobs, right? I think there was a South Park episode about that.
Yeah. And they said
jobs.
We were going to elect Trump. So I mean, they've been on the bleeding edge of some.
And they're doing a good job of talking about current events right now.
Yes.
If you're watching. Sorry for the shameless plug for South Park. South Park will save democracy.
Yes, please sponsor this episode.
Yes, exactly. Trey and Matt, if you're listening. So the interesting thing, how did we get into South Park? How did that happen?
Naturally.
Yeah. But we were talking about work and office being decoupled, and so work is now a thing we do irrespective of place. And again, it's driven by that technology. We were talking about the platform shift.
South Park.
We went to South Park. But doing the research for my book and realizing that jobs get displaced, undoubtedly, but more jobs that are higher paying and better quality emerge in every single platform shift, right? If you think about when we went from the field to the factory to the office, now it's the office to the ether.
Yeah.
And so in 1900, do you want to guess how many people were employed shoveling horse manure in New York City?
I don't want to guess, but I bet you're going to tell me the number.
I am going to tell you the number. There were 30,000 people.
30,000 people.
So once the automobile came along, guess what?
Yeah,
You didn't need 30,000, but they moved on to the factory floor.
Sure.
They moved on to the auto production,
Sure.
right? And so today, those folks who are doing a job that likely will be displaced through technology have to figure out then how to prompt that technology and operate at a higher level. So, there's a really interesting quote from Eric Asimov, a futurist, and he said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read or write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn."
Yeah, I think you actually shared that with the conference. It's written down in my notebook.
Yeah.
That was one of the one-liners that I stole. So
Yeah.
I may not have used it a few times.
Well, I hope.
No, I think it's a very profound statement, and I can't remember the lady that you brought that wrote the book, and she talked about she wrote the book Generations.
Dr. Jean Twenge.
Dr. Jean Twenge. Highlight of the show, or the conference. I think it stemmed some really interesting conversations in my house.
Yes.
So kudos for bringing her.
Yes.
Thought she had brought a lot of great content. But she talked about how technology. It wasn't world wars. It wasn't the Great Depression that stemmed in different ways. But it was technology, and she referenced how the cell phone. Right, how that became an inflection point in how we operate as humans in some ways, and I view AI as one of those things that very well could turn into another significant inflection point, and Office plays a part of that. Our industry is changing in real time so fast. Everybody, and I didn't want to make this this was a relational. This format was relational based.
Sure.
But so I didn't pull AI into all of it because that's the buzzword. But what we're talking about is, I think, super relevant because work can happen from everywhere. That is absolutely true. There is a displacement that will happen. The one thing that we can control is maybe our response to it. And so how do you balance? How do you talk to the person and give them encouragement, maybe for the young professional coming to this industry, on how you should approach what is going to be a significant, maybe inflection point for our industry?
I would say learn, and understand what AI is. Like, AI is a catchphrase for a number of different things. And so I wound up taking a course at MIT in AI and business strategy.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Man, and you're like, okay, I need to learn, relearn, and then learn again.
Well, I geeked out. I have an undergrad degree in electrical engineering.
Oh, so you really are a nerd. When you're saying I geeked out, you embraced your inner engineer.
Full nerd.
I have some of those in my staff.
I'll put some tape on my glasses now. But no, but it's essential to understand what it is, what it can do, what its limitations are, and how you can use it as a tool. I think the most important thing for young people is to realize it's not a panacea. Right? There's not pixie dust, right? It's not a black box that then will give you nirvana at the end. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Nathan, if you and I were going to go and dig a hole, and we needed to move, let's say, a ton of dirt, and you and I just had 2 shovels, it would take us all day. But you bring in a steam shovel, and with one fell swoop, in about 4 minutes, you're done. That's the analogy I like to use with young people. This is a tool that can help you accelerate what it is and how you're doing. I believe that we are going to see the next platform shift happen sooner than ever, and that's going to be around quantum computing.
Sure.
Right? Like the idea of us using ones and zeros to code will be like shag rug.
Yeah, seems archaic.
In 5 to 10 years. Because at the quantum level, it's 1, 0, and everything in between. And if you have one byte and you go to 2 bytes, well, then you have this linear progression of growth, right? But if you have 1 qubit and you go to 2 qubits, you have an exponential increase.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And so that power will allow us to do so much more. Now, there's always a dark side to every new technology, and we're not going to discuss that. But I think what Dr. Jean Twenge, I want to come back to her because she is brilliant. By the way, for those of you, so Dr. Jean Twenge is at the University of San Diego. She's a social psychologist, and she's written a book called iGen, another book called Generations. She's a specialist in parsing the data that has been collected for the past 40 years on people and behaviors. And she noticed this profound shift that happened between 2010 and 2014. It was the onset of the iPhone. It was the, sort of the kids with their heads down. It was compounded by some other factors.
Sure.
Right? And Jonathan Haidt from NYU, who wrote a fabulous book called The Anxious Generation. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for over a year. Haidt references Jean Twenge in his work. And so why was Jean Twenge at a real estate conference? And the reason was we as practitioners need to understand who our employees are going to be in 5 and 10 years and who our tenants are going to be. And more importantly, how are these humans going to behave as consumers? Whether they're consuming space to work in, whether it's a traditional office space or it's a third place, fill in the blank, or how are they voting with their wallets, spending money, and what can you learn about that? Turns out the Gen Alphas are behaving exactly like boomers. They want the physical. These are people. I feel bad for the alphas who had to go through the pandemic, right, and who had that social isolation for 2-3 years, and so we need to understand that in order for you to design space, for me to develop communities. My why, if you were going to use a Simon Sinek, has evolved into building healthy communities, where and that can mean anything from the work we do together, building a mixed-use center, to the work I do as the president of my national fraternity, Pi Kappa Phi, where I have 11...
We're going to have to come back together because I'm sure there's great stories there.
Well, there are, but there's 11,500 undergrads and 125,000 living alumni, and we're in the middle of a loneliness epidemic that's happening. And we are seeing more and more. I had 5 phone calls last year that were from the CEO who shared that 5 individuals, undergrads, took their lives.
Wow.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And so
we have to be better.
We have to do better. And what Jean Twenge is doing is putting a spotlight on what's happening from a trends perspective. So she's looking in a reactive way. She's also coming out with a book, 10 Lessons on Parenting, which is coming out soon.
I'll have to check that one out when it comes.
Very important. But with Jonathan Haidt and with Richard Reeves, who wrote Of Boys and Men, these are folks who are thinking about solutions that can help shore up these young men who are literally coming out into society, whether they're going to college, whether they're going to work, whether they're going into your stores, going into your shopping center. These people are super fragile, right? They don't understand that life's hard. They don't understand that challenges are going to happen. And so we have to make them anti-fragile, something Jonathan Haidt from NYU talks about quite a bit. So I think if we're really going to be invested in the built environment, we have to be invested in our community and our people.
We talk about that. Our why is bring communities to life. It's probably why we like doing business together. I'd love to schedule some time when we can sit down for 45 minutes to an hour and have these conversations, because I think they're really important to our industry.
They're vital.
But more importantly to that, they're important to our lives. And to our legacies, and how we leave not only our industry, but how we leave things better than we found it. And that's so. I wish we had more time, Joe, but they're giving me the signals back here. But you're close enough that we'll bring you down to our studio and love to sit down for a little bit of time. But thanks, Joe, for spending some time with us.
Great to see you.